Welcome to Protected by Corsair, the podcast designed for business owners, office managers, and growing organizations that want to stay secure without getting buried in technical jargon. Every episode, we break down real cybersecurity tasks and risks facing small and mid-sized businesses, and we explain what you can do to reduce risk, protect your operations, and avoid becoming the next headline. I'm Rick Valdez, and today we're talking about one of the biggest misconceptions in modern business technology. Once we moved to Office 365 or Google Workspace, security was handled for us. Unfortunately, that assumption creates major risk for businesses every single day. Moving to the cloud absolutely changes your technical environment, but it doesn't eliminate cybersecurity risk. It shifts responsibility, and many businesses don't realize that Microsoft and Google operate under what's called a shared responsibility model. This means they secure the infrastructure, but you're still responsible for your users, your passwords, your data, your permissions, your devices, your backups, and your security policies. Today, we'll talk about where businesses are most vulnerable inside the cloud environments like Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace, and how attackers are exploiting those gaps right now. One of the most common things we hear from small businesses is, we're on Microsoft 365, so we're protected. Or, we use Google Workspace, so everything's backed up automatically. That's not entirely true. Cloud providers maintain the platform itself. That means the physical data centers, the infrastructure, the servers, and the uptime. But securing your tenant is actually the actual business environment that your employees use. That's your responsibility. If an employee gets phished, if an admin account gets compromised, or if files are deleted, or if ransomware syncs and encrypts data throughout your cloud storage, that becomes your problem. Unfortunately, many businesses discover this only after an incident occurs. Today, email remains the #1 attack vector for small and mid-sized businesses. Even with cloud email platforms, attackers routinely bypass basic protections by using phishing emails, fake invoice scams, business email compromise, multi-factor authentication attacks, or password harvesting websites. A common misconception is that default email filtering is enough. It usually isn't. Attackers now use legitimate cloud platforms, QR code phishing, AI-generated messages, spoofed vendor communications, and real compromised accounts. These attacks can look convincing because they come from actual, real Microsoft or Google accounts that were previously compromised. Once attackers gain access to one employee account, they begin reading email, monitoring conversations, resetting passwords, targeting accounting departments, attempting wire fraud, and expanding privileges. The next issue surprises a lot of businesses. Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace are not traditional backup systems. Yes, they have retention capabilities, and some deleted items may be recoverable, but that's not the same as having a true backup and recovery strategy. Here's the risk. If an administrator deletes data, ransomware encrypts synced files, a disgruntled employee wipes out information, a tenant becomes inaccessible, or retention policies are misconfigured, recovery may be incomplete or impossible. And this is where many organizations find themselves in serious trouble. Let's walk through a typical scenario we see far too often. A small business has Office 365, email in the cloud, SharePoint storage, and one global administrator account. Perhaps the admin uses a weak password, and there are no conditional access policies enabled, and advanced monitoring is not in place. An attacker can successfully compromise the administrator account through phishing. Within hours, multi-factor authentication methods are changed, new admin accounts are created, security settings are modified, mail forwarding rules are added, and data begins disappearing. The business is suddenly locked out of its own account, and because there was no independent backup, no secondary admin controls, no monitoring, and no incident response plan, recovery becomes extremely difficult. For some businesses, operations simply stop altogether. That's not hypothetical. It happens every day. One framework gaining major adoption is called Zero Trust Architecture. The basic concept is simple. Never trust, always verify. In older environments, once someone logged into the network, they were often trusted automatically. That model no longer works. Zero trust assumes that accounts can be compromised, computers can be infected, users can make mistakes, and threats can originate internally or externally. So instead of broad trust, organizations implement identity verification, least privilege access, device validation, continuous monitoring, conditional access, segmentation, and multi-factor authentication. Zero trust does not mean making systems difficult to use. It simply means reducing unnecessary risk. Here are several practical steps every business using Office 365 or Google Workspace should consider. Number 1, back up your cloud data. Maintain independent backups of email, OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, Google Drive, and shared drives. If your tenant becomes compromised, backups may become your only recovery path. 2, enforce conditional access policies. Limit risky sign-ons based on geographic location, device compliance, login behavior, impossible travel events, and unknown devices. Essentially, we recommend protecting company data by automatically checking each person's login location along with impossible travel events. For example, if a user logs in with a Windows machine from Texas, but 20 minutes later logs into the same account with a Windows machine from Europe, this would be cause for concern. Implementing policies like this can dramatically reduce account takeover risk. 3, monitor administrative activity. Global administrator accounts should be limited, protected with multi-factor authentication, continuously monitored, and regularly reviewed. Many breaches escalate because attackers gain admin privileges unnoticed. 4, enable audit logging. Without logging, you may never know who accessed data, what changed, when compromise occurred, or how attackers moved through systems. Logging is critical for both security and recovery investigations. 5, implement zero trust principles. Basic zero trust practices can significantly improve security posture, multi-factor authentication everywhere, least privilege access, device management, identity monitoring, session controls, and security awareness training. Here are some of the most common mistakes we see. Again, assuming Microsoft or Google backs up everything. Cloud availability is not the same as business continuity. Weak administrator controls or no multi-factor authentication enforcement. Too many businesses have one admin account shared by multiple people. Therefore, without visibility, a compromise can persist for weeks or months. Passwords alone are no longer sufficient. And without third-party monitoring, many attacks go undetected until financial damage occurs. Cloud platforms are powerful. They improve collaboration, mobility, and scalability. But moving to the cloud does not outsource cybersecurity responsibility. In many ways, cloud environments increase the importance of identity security, access management, monitoring, backup strategy, and user awareness training. Businesses that understand this early are far more resilient when incidents occur. If you're unsure whether your Microsoft Office 365 or Google Workspace environment is properly secured, work with your IT service provider to obtain a security risk assessment. Coursera USA offers a free security risk assessment designed specifically for small and mid-sized businesses. We help identify security gaps, backup risks, email vulnerabilities, administrative weaknesses, and exposure points inside your cloud environment. The goal is not just to move into the cloud, it's to move securely. Thanks for listening to Protected by Coursera. If you found this episode helpful, subscribe and share with another business owner, and visit Coursera USA to learn more about cybersecurity and managed IT services for growing businesses. In the next episode, we'll discuss how much cybersecurity a small business actually needs. We'll see you next time, and thanks for watching.